Hey folks, this is a follow-up video on the Remarkable Paper Pro. I've been using it for a month now, and there's a little technique I've developed that I think is worth sharing. I'm a sales professional, and when you're selling to customers. Those customers have employees, so you're selling to people. Those people have problems, and you have solutions. And those solutions, they have different attributes, like how much they cost, or how much time it takes to deliver them, or how much of the product they want. Maybe it's a unit measurement. If you're selling a certain pipe, are you selling 3 miles of pipe? Are you selling 3 tons of pipe? I don't know how pipe is sold. I don't sell pipe. But anyhow, you get my point. There's a lot to remember. And there are really good sales tools out there like CRM systems where you input all that information and you can put it on your phone, right? There's a lot of different ways you can capture it. But when you're trying to stay organized mentally so that when you're talking to your manager and he asks you a question, or a coworker calls you and says, hey, I know you're working on this thing. What exactly is the problem? You want to be quick. You want to be able to answer those questions thoughtfully, which is actually more important than being quick. You want to be precise. So I developed this technique where when I go to things where I know I'll have time, I just take the Remarkable with me. So previously I would take something like my PlayStation Vita, or maybe one of my handheld PC systems like my Steam Deck or my ROG Ally, and I'd kill some time and I would try to enjoy myself. And look, I'm not saying don't ever do that. There's room for that, of course. For example, when I'm on a plane, I take everything. I've got my iPad so I can watch movies. I've got my ROG Ally, usually not my Steam Deck, but I'll take my ROG Ally X, play some video games. But I also sit down for Remarkable and I go, okay, what fiscal quarter am I interested in? Who's the customer? So I'll put the customer name. And who are the people? So it might be person 1, person 2, and it could be 10 people. I'm trying to remember their names, first and last, and their title, okay? And then I'll write down the problem. The company has a problem they're trying to address. And maybe it's 1 problem, 2 problems, it could be, I was gonna write 5, I'm going for 10. It could be 10 different problems. How are those prioritized? Well, 1 to 10, right? Number 1 priority, right here. All right, well, which person or people is aligned with number 1 being the actual number 1 priority? Maybe it's person 1 and person 3. And then maybe it's person 2 who actually prioritizes number 10. Oh crap. Okay, if person number 2 who has a C-level title thinks number 10 is the biggest priority, but these other 2 people think otherwise, how do I work through that? And then everything you sell is a solution to these problems. So if it's product 1 or product 2, what solution does it solve or address? So forth and so. You kind of get the schema here. And by doing this in quiet places, or even in noisy places, to be honest, when my mind is quiet, I guess that's the differentiator. Doing something like this has helped me a lot with my recall. Whether it's I get a call from my boss or a coworker, like I mentioned, or I'm actually in front of the customer. So for example, about 2 weeks ago, I was on a flight. It was about a 4-hour flight, and I was going to visit a customer. And at that customer site, I have multiple people I'm working with who all have different problems that require different solutions. And in sales, we call each one of these things opportunities because they're distinct. If in this case, let's say opportunity 1 and opportunity 2, they're not mutually dependent. They're actually mutually exclusive. I could sell all these, the solution, the products in here. I can sell opportunity 2, and it has no impact on opportunity 1. If they had an impact on each other, it'd be a different conversation. So I have multiple opportunities with 1 customer, and I'm trying to remember, okay, what am I selling? What's their problem? And how do they prioritize the problem? When do they want to solve the problem? How much is this problem actually costing them? That's a big component when you're selling a differentiated product. If a product costs $10,000, okay, so the purchase price is $10,000, people aren't going to spend $10,000 to solve, let's say a $9,000 problem, because then they'd be losing money. They'd spend $10,000, let's cross that out, to solve a $20,000 problem and more. So do I know how expensive the problem is for the customer? Maybe it's not measured in dollars. Maybe it's measured in time, or it's measured in risk. It's It's measured in the risk of being audited or something like that, which will have eventually a dollar figure behind it. They're a little harder to capture and to be honest with. So anyhow, the point is, I'm not saying go and do this, but if you're in sales or if you're dealing with a lot of people, maybe even a medical profession, if you have a lot of patients, although be careful about patient confidentiality, just sitting down in those quiet moments, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, a couple hours on an airplane, just trying to go, okay, what am I doing right now? Who are the customers and the people, the problems, the solutions? It's been really helpful for me to just get my arms around what I'm doing. So if you're a sales professional watching this and you understand what I'm saying, I think you'll appreciate this. And that brings us to the Remarkable Paper Pro itself. You can do this with the Remarkable 2, which is less expensive. So don't think about like, oh, this only works on the Pro. Go do it on the Remarkable 2. It's a little less expensive. It's also an awesome device. But this has worked for me a lot. And then the other thing I'll mention is that, while we're on the conversation, the topic of sales, when you're in front of a customer and you're taking notes with, pencil and paper or e-ink tablet and pen or stylus, it's a better look, I think, than typing away clicky-clacky with your screen open and people don't really know what you're looking at and get distracted by a text or something. So that's another reason to invest in something like this. If you're selling differentiated products where, commissions are really good for your income, I don't know a better way to put that, but, you can afford to buy something like this, I think you should consider looking into it. And they have an awesome return policy. I think it's 100 days. You go to Remarkable, you try it out for 100 days and send it back if you don't find that it actually is valuable for your work experience. But anyway, that's my recommendation. If you're dealing with a lot of different things, organize them, but do it from scratch. Don't leverage other notes that you have. Just try to do it from memory. What am I working on? For me, it's been a game changer. All right, hope you found this helpful. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.